You are listening to the Football Diehards podcast with your hosts, Justin Lanero and Bob Harris, sponsored by DraftKings. Sign up now using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS. Make a first-time $5 deposit, and you'll receive a free $3 ticket.
Greetings, humans. Welcome to the Football Diehards podcast. Myself, Kyle Dvorchak, here today. Justin taking a Super Bowl break. He will be back post-Super Bowl as we dive into the off-season content, of which there will be plenty. A lot of it will involve quarterbacks. We'll get into that in 1 second since we last convened, Kyle. And how are you, Kyle, by the way, before I get all excited?
I'm good. We are, we're near the end of it all, but we do have one more showdown slate. And no matter, we'll talk about DraftKings a little bit on here, but they've got it on FanDuel. Yahoo even made their own single game contest. So there's still a ton of good action to be had. I will be very sad when it's over, though, because I thought this was one of the most fun football seasons that we've had in recent memory. Luckily, though, it does also seem like a fun off season, too. So at least we get to head off of a high into another form of a high.
I say this probably every year. Let me say it one more year. Nobody does a 365-day year reality show like the NFL. This year has been, probably that on steroids. Going through the COVID, the Sunday's game will be the 269th game played this season. That means the whole season got played, everybody. Something that I know really super smart people who predicted in advance of the season. Also super smart people predicted that maybe the rest of us would learn something about the NFL's, how they approached all this. And lo and behold, the CDC has released information about how the NFL's policies, procedures, protocols have indeed given us all something to learn from. So good on the NFL for kind of pile driving their way through it. It was pretty hinky at times. We had practice squad wide receivers playing quarterback and but they stuck to their guns, and I'm glad we are where we are. We have a couple of since we last got together, there were a couple coaching changes or hires. I think almost immediately after one. In fact, the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni as their next head coach. The Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator, has been that dating back to his time in San Diego, Los Angeles. He was with the Chargers before they moved to Los Angeles. So immediately opened the door. Number one, going to Philadelphia, Kyle, opened the door to some quarterback speculation there. Also maybe earned him the worst introductory press conference award. It's a tough crowd in Philadelphia. They don't brook much nonsense, and they brooked none of his. It wasn't a good look for the start, but I'm sure he'll pick up the pace. He's, seems like a pretty sharp guy. Then the Texans hired Ravens assistant David Culley, very respected man, older fellow. I think, what is he, 65, 68, something in that range there. I should probably look and check before I throw it out there like he's something that I don't know that he is. 65. And he's been a long-time assistant, highly respected. It feels like this might have been, I don't want to say, a move to appease Deshaun Watson, because I don't know if there's any appeasing him. And we're going to talk about some quarterback shenanigans going on. But, the ball got rolling with Deshaun Watson basically asking for a trade. We found out about that long after it happened. That was actually reported the day after the Texans hired Culley. So that kind of tells you where he's at if everyone thought that this was going to smooth things over. Nick Caserio, the new GM, suggested that the player will not be traded. Might have been a good move to use his name. I don't know, Kyle. Maybe I'm just an old-fashioned guy. But immediately Watson took all his Texans references off his social media, changed his little handle to the athlete, as opposed to the player, which I think is a nice move. Anyway, a lot going on there. So we're going to dig into the quarterback stuff, and it really started in earnest, the actual moves, with a surprisingly quick blockbuster trade in which the Rams acquired Matthew Stafford from the Detroit Lions. We knew this was coming. Stafford had asked for his had made a trade request, and, the Lions basically said they would accommodate him, and they shipped him off for Jared Goff and 2 future first-round picks and a third-round pick. Just your initial thoughts when you heard this news, Kyle.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it works out well for the Lions side, but not like it's not incredible. I think it more just disproportionately puts this tremendously low floor onto the Rams. Like, if it turns out Jared Goff was actually like pretty good, like he was league average, maybe just slightly above average, and Sean McVay was just doing well with him, not like people have this concept of Jared Goff where he is this atrocious game manager, like not starting level, and then Sean McVay brings him to like fringe top 10, at least top half level.
Pro Bowl, couple Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl.
And it's possible that's the case. It is very possible that Sean McVay is just that smart that he is able to design an offense that can bring a borderline starting level quarterback to top half, and combined with the weapons he had, the good defense, they can make a Super Bowl. But if that is not the case, and Jared Goff was actually like decent to pretty good, not like top 10, top 5, just like if he was above average, even slightly, and Matthew Stafford is also only above average, even to maybe a better extent. I mean, this franchise is like what? I don't know a ton about basketball, but I believe this was the Nets a handful of years ago, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago now, in the Kevin Garnett trade or whatever, where they like basically mortgaged their entire future for a bunch of like veterans who didn't pan out or whatever. And I don't know if they've ever been good since. I think they have a superstar team now. Again, my knowledge of basketball is very limited, but that's what we're potentially looking at, because not only do they not have the future first round picks, this was their next 2 years, but they don't have a pipeline of young, like potential high picks, like, guys who haven't panned out yet, but could. They don't have a former first rounder on the roster where we're saying like he could make the step next year and be great, because they haven't had first round picks in years. So it seems like, sure, if Stafford is actually a top 10 quarterback and Sean McVay is an incredible mind, this probably goes quite well. If that's not the case, this franchise is screwed for like the next decade.
Yeah, right. I mean, they don't have a first round pick until 2024. To their credit, Les Snead, the GM, has done pretty well with the later and middle round picks, right? I mean, they've got some really good players over the course of his tenure. I guess, when I look at this, Kyle, I kind of feel like, just immediately before we have the results, like we're not going to know the final, we can't grade this until all those future first round picks, the next, 2022, 2023, kind of come out, and we see how they pan out for the Lions. And look, we'll see how Jared Goff pans out, for the Lions, the Dan Campbell, and it seems like the new Lions regime, which includes Brad Hodges, who was with the Rams when they drafted Goff, who's the new GM for the Lions. I mean, they maybe feel like he's more than a bridge quarterback. Certainly they're saying they think he's more than a bridge quarterback, which, makes great sense whether he is or not. I mean, let's start selling now. But let's say he is something better and they get the first 2 first round picks. They'll have paid $45 million for a couple of years. And like, look, if he's horrible, they've paid 20 some million a year for a starting quarterback, not without some upside, and then they move on. If he is serviceable, they'll get him on a new deal and keep him over the long term. They'll have a couple first round picks look good. And immediately though, my first thought was, doesn't Sean McVay kind of come off as a little bit of a D-bag? Like, like Bailey, like, okay, so you're disappointed in the guy. So you start talking crap about him right in your first, post NFC, your playoff loss game to Green Bay, not ready to commit to him as a quarterback, when we all know, I mean, basically you've tied yourself to him. So, big picture, dialing back, Kyle, I feel like Sean McVay saw the thing he wanted. The Rams went out and overpaid to acquire that asset, right? They traded up in the draft to get him. Then they overpaid contractually sooner than they had to commit to him. And then they overpaid to get rid of him. And so, just to get rid of the contract, essentially. So, I don't know. We'll see how it works out. You're right. If Matthew Stafford pans out and turns into the thing that, takes them to the next level. And I also get it. I put it out on Twitter. I never want to see Aaron Donald cry again. And if this forestalls that, I'll be a happy man. I'm going to ask you this, Kyle, though. With the Rams, I mean, was maybe the missing piece an actual deep threat? Was like Brandon Cooks the missing piece to that offense?
I mean, I think he was one of the missing pieces. I think a good quarterback was probably sort of a missing piece. But their offensive line, as good as it has been, is like extremely old. And we saw it was not this previous year, but it was 2019, where they're like hyper fragile as well. So I think this team, it doesn't even seem super high ceiling to me, which is why I'm so concerned. Right. I don't think like Stafford has to turn out to have been like this top 5 hidden quarterback who just was on terrible rosters for a decade and never really got like, 1 or 2 big shine through seasons. I think a deep threat would be massively valuable. And like, I don't know, maybe they haven't Van Jefferson, but the first year production says that's probably not true. Yeah. Probably don't
My
have
dynasty shares are going, please let that be true.
Maybe it is, but I think that's one of the missing pieces. But I think there are probably multiple missing pieces, and with their draft capital or lack thereof, and like their overall not being like one of these big money spenders in free agency, they don't have that money to spend. I think they have multiple missing pieces, and I don't know. I would bet against
defense though, so I do get the desire to cash in on that defense while it's still that defense, right? They paid up huge to get Jalen Ramsey. They've got Aaron Donald. I mean, you've got some really good pieces in place on that side of the ball, and obviously it's a super good defense, and hopefully it will carry you over until 2024. Well, and by the way, I mean, Stafford is 33 years old or just turned 33 years old, so it's not like he's done according to the latest quarterback world. You can play a little bit longer than that. Some guys might even play another 10 years. I don't know. Stafford's at Tom Brady levels of avocado ice cream, but could still play for a while. So this brings us to the quarterback carousel as it stands now. Let's just run through some teams, Kyle. You tell me if you think they will be making a change or if it will be status quo. The Atlanta Falcons have pretty much made it clear it's Matt Ryan. They could draft somebody with the 4th overall pick. Are you buying Matt Ryan as their and if it is, can Arthur Smith, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan?
I still think Matt Ryan is probably the guy. Like he's been basically he's like just older Matt Stafford, right? Like they're both like good quarterbacks, not super mobile, not like great at anything, but we saw like good enough to get you there. And this is a Falcons team that has just been like completely devoid of talent for a long time. I think if they wanted to move on from Ryan, it would have to be like a trade thing. And Ryan is what would he be, like the, I don't know, 4th most of like viable quarterback to trade for. Stafford off the board already, but Watson ahead of him. Even rumors that like Derek Carr, who's probably in that same like echelon of quarterbacks, could be on the block. So I don't see anyone trading for him, and I don't see like he's not a guy you're just cutting. So no, he stays, I think. And yeah, there's a chance he gets like Tannehill, if you want to call it that. I think maybe it's just like slight improvements that this team is sort of just stuck in purgatory because they're like such a lack of talent on defense and they don't have an elite quarterback. He can get better, but he won't reach elite properly.
Right.
So,
and I guess if you're a Falcons fan, you are thinking back to what Ryan Tannehill was as a Dolphin and what he's become under Arthur Smith's tutelage, and you're hoping Julio Jones can rebound to a degree, and it sounds like both those guys will be around. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback of the future in Carolina. Why? Because they keep saying he's not. What do you think their plan is this year, Kyle? I mean, there are some guys in play, and it's hard for us to say, predict until some of more of the dominoes start falling, which direction this might go. There aren't a ton of high-end free agents. It seems like everyone might be bidding on Jameis Winston. Maybe he can make some money. Ryan Fitzpatrick likely to be out there, but seems like not a great fit for this team or what they want to do. Your thoughts on the Panthers and Matt Rule?
Yeah, Matt Rule, I mean, maybe it's fine, whatever. But he did have those same vibes that you get from Jared Goff and Sean McVay, where McVay was like, he was like, I will not name anyone the starter when asked about Goff. And like reportedly there was like a rift between them. And Matt Rule says like, we just haven't seen what we need to see from Teddy Bridgewater. Like maybe he's their quarterback this coming year because no other option lands on their plate. But that's the only scenario. It's because nothing else came up, and Bridgewater, he's fine. And I think if any, like what number draft pick do they have? They gotta have like a top 10 pick, right? Top 5?
Yeah. Let me look that up. I should have had that in front of me. But yes, they do have a really solid draft pick.
Whatever quarterback falls to them is probably the guy who maybe he's not the starter week 1, but like by week 4 he's probably the starter. I mean, I think it's probably like the Justin Herbert situation.
It's the 8th pick overall, right? So
yeah, there's gonna be a quarterback there that they're saying like, They clearly just don't like Teddy Bridgewater, and I get it. He's not the future, probably.
You know what it seemed like, Kyle? It seemed like the reaching over the goal line and fumbling the football thing more than once was really something that really got under Matt Rule's skin. I mean, he really, called him out at, I think, the first game when he did it in the middle of the field. Then it happened again near the sidelines. And, Teddy Bridgewater said each time he owned it, said, man, I can't be doing that. And I think really when you play for Matt Rule, you can't be doing that.
Apparently, yeah. It's like we said, there's really only one. There's only one scenario that he
again,
starts.
Without knowing, which direction they go, I agree with you. We could end up, they could probably survive another year with Matt Rule. I don't see anyone else on that roster, that's gonna battle for that role, right? I mean, nobody downstream. I think we've seen it. I mean, PJ Walker was exciting in that other league. Will Greer has not shown a damn thing. So I don't see any way they're going to either of those guys. So they may end up, the musical chairs will determine, much like it will the Chicago Bears. But let me ask you this. Is their best answer not Mitchell Trubisky at this point?
I think there has to be something better than Mr. Trubisky. It's another one where I'm not sure what it is. They're more of a team that is subject to the whims of whatever falls into their lap. Like if for whatever reason, like the market doesn't quite heat up on Jameis Winston, I think he's probably at least higher ceiling. And like his floor can't be that much worse. I know he had a ton of picks, but like also Mitch Trubisky doesn't even throw to one side of the field. So which floor is worse? I don't know. But his upside, Jameis's, I think would probably be higher. So I could see someone like a Jameis landing there if his market doesn't heat up. But they're another team that is simply just subject to what can fall into their lap.
How big would Ryan Pace's huevos have to be for him to go after Deshaun Watson as a trade after passing up on him in a draft and trading up to get Mitchell Trubisky that year?
It would be awesome because it would be like the ultimate, that's what smart people do is they reevaluate their process and they realize the mistakes they made. And if God gives you a chance to fix that mistake, even at, more cost, you should take it. So that would not only be like crazy, but also crazy smart.
All right. So before we go through the rest of the mystery spots, I'm thinking we're doing this in the wrong order. Let's go this. Deshaun Watson, odds he remains a Texan.
I think I'm flipped. I said there was a 20% or 30% chance he left. I'm sort of on the other end now, where I'm 70% he leaves. It just seems sure, these things are still literally unheard of, but there's been nothing to indicate that he's staying other than our priors on quarterbacks generally staying with their teams.
Right. And this just seems like a situation. I mean, look, we've seen players force their way out. By the way, Jalen Ramsey most recently forced his way out of Jacksonville. His agent is also Deshaun Watson's agent. Just not for nothing there. So I'm kind of with you on this one. I went from 75% chance he stays to I'm 50-50 at best and probably heading in your direction. So we'll say Watson's going to be probably at least in play. New York Jets, will they keep Sam Darnold?
No, because I guess my best guess is that he gets traded to Houston. He's not starting. There's no way he's not. He's definitely not starting. I'm going to say they trade him to Houston. So I'll say no. If that doesn't happen, he's probably still on the roster though.
All right. Fair enough. And I tend to agree with that. I don't think he's the starter there either. And Robert Saleh, the new head coach, is a guy that Deshaun Watson would like to play for. That's reportedly his preferred destination. And Miami would be number 2. So we'll get to that. The Philadelphia Eagles, Carson Wentz, even as Adam Schefter saying this very day on a local Philly radio station that he thinks Wentz still wants out, even with the new coaching regime, the whole 9 yards. He wants a fresh start. Odds that he is the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles week 1.
I'm going to say less than 50-50. I'm going to say 30 or 40%. I think he's probably on the roster because he seems just the contract seems much like Jared Goff, where you should have to pay to get it off the roster. But we've already seen that move. The suitor for that probably would have been the Lions. He already did it. Yes. So I think he's on the roster, but I just think he loses a camp battle to Jalen Hurts if they go in for that fight. I think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback at this point. So I'm going to say he's on the roster and doesn't win it. There's a chance he wins it. Maybe he gets better. He loses these yips or whatever. I'm going to say 30%-ish. Maybe even 40, because if you're on the roster, he has been good. Maybe he can reclaim that. It doesn't feel like it though, man. So I'm going to say 30.
Yeah, it seems like the arrival of a new coach who's done wonders with quarterbacks before has not swayed the opinion of the quarterback, not named Jalen Hurts. New Orleans Saints, Taysom Hill got his audition essentially from a fantasy perspective. It was great. Was it great enough from the Saints perspective? You think they'll go with him? Sean Payton did say today they have a big interest in keeping Jameis Winston. Do you think they do, or do you think they'll be likely outbid? They don't have any money against the cap. They're $100 million literally over the estimated cap right now.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone actually wants Jameis Winston, there is no way the Saints are keeping him. They literally just do not have the funds required in their bank account to make a Jameis Winston contract work. Even if Breeze retires, like you said, I don't know, Breeze is probably in that 20.
Probably coming next week.
Yeah, even if he retires, they're like $100 million. They have no money.
Right.
Where are they getting this money to pay Jameis Winston? He was coming off
they already played
one of the most
Taysom Hill.
mistake-prone years we've seen of any quarterback ever. That's why he came in cheap. As long as that's not our every single team's opinion of him this year, he just can't stay. It won't work.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there as well. So Taysom Hill, if he is the Saints starting quarterback next season, where are you drafting him? What range of quarterbacks? Is he a quarterback one?
He's definitely a quarterback one. I mean, he was just
mobility, people.
It's the mobility, man. It doesn't matter. He could literally not throw a single pass, and we'd be like, I don't know, he's probably scoring 10 rushing touchdowns. Like Cam Newton was at no point this year a good thrower, and he still had a ton of usable fantasy weeks. And Taysom Hill was actually a decent thrower. I don't think he was great, but he was better than I expected. So if you take Cam Newton's rushing from last year and just put Jared Goff level passing on it, that is not only a QB1, it's top 6 QB. So he'll be one of the easiest values because people are going to say oh, he's good, but he's gimmicky. They'll be concerned. I don't care how gimmicky he is. I take those quarterbacks who rush like that as QB1s automatic.
All right. San Francisco 49ers, a lot of talk about whether they like or don't like Jimmy G, the handsome fellow. George Kittle talked about him this week, saying he likes the handsome quarterback. He would be happy if he stayed there. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo basically, was under center, taking him all the way into the Super Bowl, right? So, yes, they took the ball out of his hands. Did they trust him? A little talk that maybe Kirk Cousins would be somebody Kyle Shanahan might have eyes for?
That feels like almost a lateral move, right? That doesn't feel like an incredible upgrade. Maybe I'm disrespecting Kirk. Maybe he's better than we give him credit for. He was
good last season. Kirk is good half the year.
Yeah, that's good. And Jimmy Garoppolo is probably good at that level less than half the year. So it's maybe less than lateral. But I feel you should really be pushing these chips in for Deshaun Watson. You got to try, man, because there are just levels to this thing where if you have a Mahomes, a Watson, Russell Wilson when they were letting him cook.
Generational guy.
It just changes the entire landscape of your team. Kirk Cousins doesn't do that. So I get why you would make the change, but how much are you going to give up for him? I think it's probably more than you should. Just stick with Jimmy Garoppolo or try out some weird free agents like Jameis, because you're probably going to have to overpay for someone like Kirk, both in the salary you pay him and in the actual compensation you have to give his team if you're actually trading for him.
The Denver Broncos, back to the teams where we're still have some questions. They were interested in the Matthew Stafford. That suggests to me they will be interested in the Deshaun Watson. Let's say they fall short of that. Is Drew Lock a serviceable guy? Is he a guy you think has a future as a number one NFL quarterback?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I guess there were some individual plays he made that you can point to and say he has the talent, but we think he's basically Josh Allen with not really much running ability, and the Josh Allen we saw for the first 2 years of his career. And sure, Josh Allen got significantly better, but do we see that kind of leap happen almost ever? Not really. It was 1 year of Jared Goff where he went from the worst scheme for any NFL franchise offense, whatever position, to an incredibly new and innovative scheme in Sean McVay. And then he regressed to the player we kind of thought he was anyways. Really, Josh Allen is the one example of a player as bad, and these are literally he's one of probably the 40 best quarterbacks in the NFL, so when I say bad, I'm not saying I could go out and outthrow him. I'm just saying in terms of starters, he was not good. We don't see players that bad make big leaps, and he also had a ton of weapons. I think it'll probably be, if they get a new quarterback, we'll really realize how good this offense in terms of the weapons they had were. And Drew Lock was kind of the fault that didn't push them towards both real life and fantasy success. I don't think he has a future as a starter, and I think they're probably in a position where they have, the free draft picks, whether they want to trade them or just use them to get a new quarterback.
All right, the Indianapolis Colts, Phillip Rivers has retired. They do not have a quarterback. Well, they have Jacoby Brissett. They have Jacob Eason. Are we overlooking Jacob Eason?
No. Well, it depends how hard you're looking. I think if you're looking any more than
Jacob Eason thinks we're overlooking him. Do you?
I would hope he does. Good for his ego, good for his sense of self and pride. But no, yeah, I'm not.
So the talk is, obviously, seems like a logical destination for Carson Wentz based on the connection with Frank Reich. I'm hearing today it sounds like Frank Reich doesn't share in that interest. Who should they be interested in?
I don't know. I think they're a team that could maybe just try and plug and play one of these back half of the draft type of players. I don't know. I think maybe Jameis Winston would be really fun on this team too. I think they're a team that has a lot of the pieces set up where, although Phillip Rivers was very good, like other quarterbacks could probably put up similar numbers to Phillip Rivers. If you coax a good season out of Jameis Winston, he would look something like Phillip Rivers did, which was good. It doesn't propel you to the next level, but if you have the talent around him, he'll get you to the playoffs. He could even win a game. I think there are probably free agents, like Fitzpatrick is another great example. If he wants to play for a contender, that'd be a perfect spot for him to land. So I think they can probably just do the like minimal spending churn veterans for the next few years and make the playoffs a lot. Probably never win a Super Bowl though.
Jacksonville Jaguars, can you make an argument for anybody besides Trevor Lawrence?
No, I can't imagine that anybody would. I know like the connection of team of Justin Fields to Urban Meyer was made, but like no, there is like no fundamental reason to doubt how good Trevor Lawrence should be and that anyone else should really be chosen over him.
I would have to agree with that. The Las Vegas Raiders reporting came out, Vinny Bonsignor, my friend at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, reporting that perhaps the Raiders were willing to field calls for one Derek Carr, because why wouldn't they? John Gruden always hates whoever his quarterback is, and he's looking for the other guy. Talk about maybe a three-way trade to get them Deshaun Watson. That seems like a little wishful thinking. Gruden came out today publicly and said there's no way the Texans are trading Deshaun Watson. And then under his breath, he might or might not have said it, unless it's to me and I really want him bad. Look, Derek Carr, would he be a fit for any of these other teams? If you were any of these other teams looking for a quarterback and you didn't want to pay the Deshaun Watson premium, would he be a guy that interests you?
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of the Phillip Rivers level of quarterback. I don't think he's bad. Like, I think he looked pretty good. Like, good enough. He looked good enough that if you're a playoff team and you're sort of content sustaining, like maybe not content, you just don't have a ton of other choices. Like the Colts probably aren't going to be able to get Deshaun Watson. I think there are two teams that have the capital that even comes close to paying for Deshaun Watson. So I don't think there are a ton of teams.
The Jets and
Dolphins.
Jets and Jaguars. The Jaguars have enough resources to do whatever they want. They're not doing that.
Technically, yeah, I guess. They have the want to and the resources. Right. So assuming like the Colts can't get Deshaun Watson and they're not like highly drafting a quarterback, I guess like if the Raiders really just wanted to give up on Derek Carr, if the price is right, he sort of makes sense for one of these contending teams. I think like the Steelers, although I know like Carr has a reasonably sized contract, if for some reason Ben Roethlisberger does a Phillip Rivers thing and retires, they're another team that has all the pieces around a quarterback that can continue making good playoff runs. I could see them, like, if the price isn't too steep, sure, he also makes sense there. I like him on contending teams. I think if you're not a contender, like, we already know what Carr is, there's not a ton of upside in chasing him.
Right. Okay, so the Miami Dolphins, you mentioned Tua Tagovailoa, percentage that he remains the Dolphins starting quarterback, as they insist he will.
I'm going to say like 60 to 70%. I mean, I don't know. They're certainly in a position where if they want to do other things at quarterback, they are easily able to do so. Whether it be Watson, I doubt it'd be like a free agent. Their draft picks, which they have many of, like they have
including Houston's.
Yeah, could be that one. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I actually like Sean Watson. I like Tua that I think they should keep him. But also the investment you have in that guy, like. It's the reason Washington didn't move off Haskins after like a bad first season when it was like a decent class to maybe pick up a quarterback. It's because they had enough investment in him and he didn't play horribly that you think, well, we should probably give him another shot. And I think because I like Tua, I'm okay with that. Maybe
coming off a pretty serious injury the year before, you could see how you could make an argument. I could make an argument.
You can make legitimate excuses, not just like bad excuses. Like some guys just aren't good and then they are good. It's like he was coming off this hip injury. He didn't run like with the starters until week 8 or 9 or whatever. He wasn't practicing with them at least. So yeah, there are reasons to believe he can get better. Good reasons too. So I would hold on to him, and that's kind of what I think they do.
We'll have to channel our inner Lanero here. The Patriots of New England seem to have a need. They don't seem like they'll be high-end players. Tom Curran of NBC Sports suggested maybe they go after some mid-range guys like Marcus Mariota, maybe Jacoby Brissett, maybe Jimmy G. That's the one that everyone seems to reject, right? Because they know him, he knows the system, all these things. Do the Patriots have a direction in your mind?
I don't think they have this perfect strategy laid out, because they're like if you're the Jaguars, it's easy to have a perfect strategy laid out when you don't have a top, the number one pick, when there isn't a massive free agent. I mean, I don't know if Dak Prescott isn't kept by the Cowboys, sure, there's a massive free agent, but other than that, No, I don't think they have a massive strategy. They're probably a team that just plays the field, except I do have a little more faith that they play the field well. Like, the best free agent quarterback signing could probably go there. Like, I think the Cam Newton signing was not a bad theoretical signing. It didn't work out, but it opened them up to a lot of upside. And I think they'll probably be the team who is best at accruing value from this, quarterbacks moving, free agents, good. It's probably a good quarterback draft. I think they're the one who's most likely to maximize their assets. Now, do I think they
have
know
so
that?
many holes, so many needs in the draft. I mean, it's just hard to imagine being able to focus on a single position, and I mean, they're going to have to find value across the board. So I'm with you there. The Washington football team, this very day, Ron Rivera kind of went semi-McVay on Alex Smith, basically, just saying nothing's decided. We'll think it through. Alex Smith obviously is not yet decided. That leaves him with Tyler Heineke and Kyle Allen. I think they're going to make a move. Is Cam Newton an answer?
No, I love Cam Newton too. Like, I think he's a cool player. He's fun. But what we saw from Cam Newton in New England, even if the weapons were not good, I think it's pretty clear that he is a low end bridge just based on his throwing ability, and I don't really see a reason. Maybe Washington is fine bridging together bridges, but I don't think he gives you that much more than Alex Smith. More as a runner, but honestly less or equivalent as a passer. I don't see Cam Newton not only in Washington. I don't really see him as a starter anywhere, which sucks because I love Cam Newton, but he was just, especially in the second half of the season, just no good.
Yeah, I always like to paraphrase Hannibal Lecter here. What do we covet, Kyle? We covet what we see or what we know. And the Washington football team, many of them know Cam Newton, and that's why the connections are being made. I have no idea which way any of these teams are going to go because none of us do. Crazy things are going to happen, and we're going to be here to cover all of it throughout the entire offseason. So steel yourself, people. I mentioned the 365-day-year reality show. It's going to be intense early on, and quarterbacks are going to be big factors in all of it. So let's look at the Super Bowl, Kyle. It'll be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe the Chiefs are the home team, even though it's the Buccaneers' home field, right?
It is the Buccaneers' home field. I didn't realize that they would make the Chiefs the home team.
I don't know if they designated that. I should probably double check that before I say something really stupid and get yelled at.
As if it matters, though. It's some rube on the internet's gonna be like, wow, I can't believe Bob said that for a thing that it determines jersey color and who calls the coin toss.
Yes, but regardless of the Buccaneers, I think the Buccaneers are actually considered the home team. It seems weird. And they picked their away uniform, so there we have that. So anyhow, but it is the home field of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's an interesting game. These teams have met before. Did we learn anything from that game, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've learned all season is that the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL by a lot. I don't think it's particularly close. Do I think that means they win this game? No, they lost to the Raiders. Anything can happen. But I do think that game should show us the playmaking ability of all of their weapons. That was, I believe, Tyreek Hill that game. But
huge fast start for Tyreek Hill.
In any game. Yeah, that was the most in one single quarter, the most receiving yards, I believe, in a single quarter. One of the best fantasy games ever, literally ever by any player. So I think it should just show us just how good. Not that that Tampa Bay is bad or they can't defend these guys. It's that no one is as good as the Chiefs, and no one can routinely defend Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and even the ancillary pieces, your McCole Hardmans and Patrick Mahomes' legs, which he should be getting closer to healthy. So I think the Chiefs win. Now, does that mean I think there's not a chance that Tampa Bay wins? No, obviously they still have a very good shot. Probably the best shot out of any team that is not Kansas City.
Yeah, I expected it would be Green Bay, and it was not because the Tampa Bay made some plays down the stretch in that game, and maybe some questionable coaching decisions that maybe Bruce Arians won't make. Kelce and Hill, by the way, hot in the postseason. Divisional round, Kelce 8 catches, 109 yards of touchdown. Hill 8 catches, 110 yards. In the championship game, Hill had 9 catches for 172 yards. Kelce 13 for 118 and 2 TDs. Both had 10 targets against the Browns. Kelce had 15 against the Bills, and Hill had 11. So they're very busy. This is the funnel, it seems like, on the Chiefs side. From a DFS perspective, it's hard to ignore those two players, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if one of the, or if all three of them don't make the optimal lineup. I think it's more about how you get creative in using them, whether it be like going with a Bucks heavy lineup and only using one, fading Patrick Mahomes into captain because when he goes off, you have the potential to get 50 points from either one of his guys. We talked about Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce could have a 3-score game as well.
Yep.
So it's not. I think you're better off instead of saying like, well, I have to make some pivots, this is going to be 650,000 people in the biggest contest on DraftKings. Let me just fade the best plays. I think you can probably get more creative elsewhere.
Yeah, let me just set the injury table. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes has the toe issue, practicing fully. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, ankle and hip, practicing fully. No issues there. Sammy Watkins, limited to open this week. Le'Veon Bell, the same. I don't think those guys, I don't know how big a factor is. I mean, Sammy Watkins obviously has some appeal. I don't think Le'Veon Bell has any appeal. On the other side of the ball, Antonio Brown has yet to practice, was on the field for a limited basis today. I should correct myself, Wednesday. Last week he didn't practice at all. They had to make a fake injury report last week, a bye week injury report. Brown was listed as doubtful on that injury report. He's not ruled out, could still pick up the pace and get on the field. But they have other options there, and I'd almost rather prefer those healthy other options to a decoy Antonio Brown if it came to that. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, both practicing fully. Both should be fine for this game. So on the Tampa Bay side of the ball, the big question is in the backfield, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hardly at this point, it almost doesn't feel like a question. Like,
Fournette?
Yeah, it seems like if they've been doing Ronald Jones dirty this long, why change it now? And it's not like Fournette has been bad. Like, sure, Fournette goes out and fumbles twice on the first 2 drives. We probably end up seeing a lot of Ronald Jones. You could have always said that about Ronald Jones early in the season as well. But if he even plays modestly well as a runner, he's clearly the better pass catcher. And do you want to strategically give up the ghost of like, if you put Ronald Jones on the field, you take one pass catcher off the field essentially, so it makes you more predictable. And as runners, if they're not going to be that much different, I think we can sort of reliably project Fournette to be the only pass catching back for this team and the primary runner. I think I'd look at sub 10 carries pretty easily for Ronald Jones if, Fournette stays healthy and doesn't fumble or, miss pass blocks or whatever.
Yeah, if you're playing on the prize picks, listen to the over-unders here. Kyle has them for you. And there's some money to be made there. So just in general, I mean, it's Mahomes over Brady for you, or will you have both? I mean, I think a lot of us will have a lot of lineups in these, right?
Yeah, the thing is you really just have to focus on the biggest contest with 600,000 people. Like if your lineup, it's very possible your lineup comes in and 999 other people have played that lineup. That means you can't win first in the way we think of it. The top prize is $1 million. You cannot win $1 million. So you have to do things that still make you build viable. They don't have to be that good, but they have to be able to put up points lineups that are going to be less duplicated. Because even if you drop your chance of winning by playing, say worse players, they're going to be lower owned. By playing worse players by 5%, if it brings you from 1,000 duplicates down to 5, you make more money whenever your lineups hit. So I'll probably be playing a lot of Bucks, unfortunately. I love my Chiefs, but I do think this is a spot where the Chiefs just get steamed really hard and people want to get in Mahomes, they want to get in Kelce. So as much as I love these guys, I'm probably not going to be playing the chalky Chiefs just the way you the chalky Chiefs. I would say would be play Mahomes captain and then one of Kelce or Hill. I'm not going to be playing it that way. I'm probably going to have a lot of Bucks pass catchers and then run them back with the Chiefs and say, even though I think Kansas City is a better team by a considerable margin, anything can happen. The field
high scoring game, a lot of points, maybe some outliers. So who are your favorite outliers? Well, we'll focus on the wide receivers. Who are the guys you'll be investing in on the Bucs side of the football?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be in this game at all, it'd be hard to really plant your flag on any of the running backs. Fournette, good, but
right.
Does he
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I mean, 0 of these running backs on either team am I a big fan of.
Yeah, Fournette, good, but does his ceiling rival anyone else's that we care about? Like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, probably not. Obviously not Hill, Kelce, and not the quarterback. So no, I think for me it's just a lot of Chris Godwin, Mike Evans lineups. I think those are the if I just want to group together the studs, I'm just going to call it Evans, Godwin. Basically, I think these are the players who could lead the slate in scoring. Evans, Godwin, Brady, Hill, Kelce, Mahomes. I think those are the players who are reasonably expected to have some chance of leading the slate in scoring. I think Godwin and Evans come in as just fractions owned of someone like Hill and Kelce. And that roughly does make sense, but to the degree that I think we see 25% of lineups or 20% of lineups using Mahomes at captain. Is he going to be 5 to 10 times more likely to lead the slate in scoring than Godwin? I don't think like 10 times more likely. Maybe in that like 3 to 4 range. But I do think you just get such unique lineups by playing, Godwin, Scotty Miller, Tom Brady, and then work from there. As opposed to like as soon as you start your lineup with Patrick Mahomes, you have expended a lot of salary, so you're going to be playing the same cheap guys as everyone else, and you've already played the most popular captain. So I'll probably still end up getting to some like Tyreek Hill because I think people will pivot to Kelsey much more often because recently Kelsey has been a bit better. But like we know Hill has the exact same upside. They're completely the same. Even you could argue I guess Hill is better upside. So for me, it's really Godwin Evans because I think they have similar upsides even though they attain them less often than Hill Kelsey, and then Hill because I think he's just a good pivot off of Kelsey.
Who's the best off schedule play? Is it the Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, or is it the Byron Pringle, McCole Hardman? I mean, which direction do you think? Is it dart toss time and you're going to have lineups with maybe all of these guys, or are you avoiding them, that type of player altogether?
100%. I'm going to be having dart tosses on all of these guys. I think like Mecole Hardman's hardly even a dart toss. Like he's just played well.
He's like viable play.
He's like getting his price up, but not to a point where you can't play him. It's just more to reflect that he's been getting more time. I think like maybe Byron Pringle. I mean, in the largest contest, like I'm probably gonna have like Anthony Sherman lineups because if Anthony Sherman scores, I'll be one of 10 people to have played him or whatever. Maybe not 10, but
sausage.
So like I think the best ones to me, like I think probably Scotty Miller. I think it's probably on the Bucs side. I think it's like Scotty Miller, Gronk, and even if like Brate's price increase has people off of him, I would even go back to that as opposed to like I really don't know even if like I assume he plays. Marcus Robinson's on the COVID list, but
yeah, he's on the reserve. But he'll be available if he tests negative. It was a close contact. The weird story, their barber, they had 20 guys scheduled to get haircuts, and halfway through the second haircut, DeMarcus Robinson was first. Kilgore, the backup center, was second. Halfway through that, they realized this guy had a positive test, came in, and everyone fled the scene. So 20 Chiefs were scheduled to get a haircut that day. 1.5 did. Sorry, DeMarcus.
Yeah, so I think as opposed to DeMarcus, who like doesn't even seem to be in the rotation much these days, I'd rather look to. I think there's a lot of like ambiguous upside with a Scotty Miller or a Gronk, who his routes have come up in the past 2 weeks, I believe, after kind of looking like a blocker in that first playoff game. I think these guys could potentially go overlooked, whereas the Chiefs just seem to have such an easy rotation of like some Mecole Hardman, a lot of the big two. Whereas I think you can get a little deeper into the rotation on the Bucs side and pick up some volume. Not a lot, but like Scotty Miller on 3 deep routes a game has a chance. I don't know if DeMarcus Robinson runs 3 deep routes where he's not the 5th read on the play.
Yeah, it has a little bit of the trust factor there going with Tom Terrific. They're dating back to training camp. So there we have it. So you mentioned the platforms. Are you going to play on all those, on the 3 you mentioned? Yahoo got in on the fun, FanDuel and DraftKings. Do you do any prize picks, Kyle?
I do not do any prize picks, but I will. I'll play on everything but Yahoo, literally because I don't know the account that I have Yahoo on, and like you can only make one account, so you can't like duplicate stuff. I can't. I don't know my password or my username, so I can't even reset my password. It's crippling.
Right. When Chrome doesn't know, I'm doomed.
That's the problem. Chrome. I tried to log into Yahoo at the beginning of the season, and Chrome was like, "You're on your own this time," and I was like, "Well, back to FanDuel."
You're my savior, Chrome. Help me. All right, everybody. So there we have it. Football Diehards podcast done for this is the 2020 season finale, I guess we would call that, right?
That's what you call it, I think.
And so we'll be here, probably dial it back a little bit in the off season, but there'll be plenty of chatter. You can find us both on the Twitter box, at Kyle Tweets here for Kyle, at Football Diehard for me. What's Justin's?
Justin Linero, I think.
At Justin Linero. Look him up too. He'll be back. He's not gone. I haven't banished him completely. He's trying really hard, but I'm keeping him around.
All right. We'll keep him around for one more week. Then everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you probably next week and then a little more sporadic.